I'm Scott Hedlund with SCH. We're a local consulting engineering firm that assists the cities with projects similar to this. And what we're here tonight for is an improvement hearing as a part of the state statute 429 special improvement process, special assessment improvement process. And we're here to talk about, as the mayor said again, what we call the 2016 street improvements, which are Edward Street from Park Avenue down to 4th Avenue Southeast and 3rd Avenue Southeast from Capsner to Oak Street. Basically the area that's outlined in red on both that left drawing there, which is the same as the drawing here, which is the same as what's in your handouts there. As far as So we're just going over the project location, is basically what's on this drawing, outlined in red. The same, these two drawings are the same as what I have up here for you guys to look at. But yeah, a little bit of a history on this project. So back in 2009 and 10, the city completed a capital improvement plan, planning process. And through that process, the city and SCH went through and evaluated and reviewed all the roads within the city and gave them a condition, and then from that condition analysis came up with a priority list of streets that were in the worst condition. And after that process, the highest priority street actually was Robert Street and Park Avenue here behind City Hall, and that project was constructed in 2013. What we're talking about tonight, these were also on that list that weren't constructed. So fast forward to last fall, the city went ahead and did a feasibility report for a number of streets within the city that were still high on the priority list as far as improvements needing to be made. And those, including the Edward and 3rd project that we're talking about tonight, it also included Summer Street and 1st Avenue Southwest, over here west of City Hall, 1st Avenue Northeast over by Red's gas station, Peter Avenue, and then also Centennial Drive. To date, the city's looking at delaying those projects to a future date, but they're looking at considering moving forward with this project at this time. As a part of that feasibility report, we were looking at a full reconstruction, so replacing all the curb and gutter, replacing the complete street on Edward Street, as well as adding new curb and gutter and storm sewer on 3rd. But through some public works committee meetings and council discussion, that project was scaled back a bit on Edward Street, so that's mostly just a resurfacing project, and I'll get into that. But so that we did an addendum to the feasibility report to talk about those improvements, and did that in February of 2016. So kind of stepping through the feasibility report as far as existing conditions out there today. Edward Street has curb and gutter on the whole length. It's about 40 feet face to face of curb as far as a width goes. There's sidewalk on either side of the street, entire length. 3rd Avenue Southeast does not have curb and gutter today, and the width varies on it, that 20 to 28 foot range. And there's minimal storm sewer on the project. Down at the 4th Avenue intersection, there's storm sewer. There's none at the 3rd Avenue intersection, and there's some up on Park, but otherwise there's no storm sewer. As far as street grades on Edward Street, even though there is curb and gutter, there are some pretty flat segments on it that do pond water currently from time to time, depending on the storm, but generally everything drains south. It's been reported that there are drainage issues in the 3rd and Edward Street intersections at certain times of the year. The pavement itself is in pretty tough shape out there. The curb is generally in decent shape. So anyway, as far as proposed improvements, Edward Street Generally, we're planning to keep the curb, except for in the intersection area here, probably 100 feet north and south. We're looking at redoing the curb, but otherwise trying to salvage the curb unless there's some spot repairs we need to do for various reasons. We're also planning to do a full depth reclamation project, which includes milling up the existing pavement and mixing it with the gravel below, and then using that material to build the road. Again, we'll have to pull out some of the material to make room for the new bituminous pavement, but that's the plan right now. And we're not planning to touch the sidewalk or anything that was done with the Safe Routes to School project. I did mention that. There was quite a bit of sidewalk down, completed south of 3rd Avenue with that project. We're not going to get into that at all. With the 3rd Avenue Southeast project, we're planning to install a curb and gutter. There isn't curb and gutter there now. And we're proposing that that would have a width of approximately 28 feet wide, which is similar to the 3rd Avenue Southeast from Main Street to Capsner that was constructed back in 2010 with the Main Street reconstruction project. As far as drainage improvements, like I said, we're pretty much leaving Edward Street the way it is, except for improving drainage in the intersection with 3rd. We are planning to install storm sewer catch basins at that intersection. And we still need to go through final design, but right now we're planning to connect to the storm sewer system that was installed over at the 3rd Capsner intersection. As far as, so that's the proposed improvements. As far as the total estimated project costs, we're looking at $255,764 for total project costs, both construction and indirect costs for like engineering contingency, financing, things like that. The city is planning to assess for a portion of the project, so that's why we're here tonight as part of that special assessment process. As far as city policy, their policy is actually to assess 50% of the costs for the improvements, and the city has gone less than that on certain projects, and so that's still yet to be determined as to what that final number is. We're just talking preliminary numbers right now, so we'll get into that more here in a minute. But as far as how the assessments are calculated, determine the total project. So anyway, here's one more figure. So the other figure that's up there on the wall, which is the same as this one, this has all the parcels that are proposed to be assessed. They're the ones that are highlighted in that pink color. And the way we determine assessments is to figure out the total project costs, which I had mentioned, figure out the total assessable footage, which is on all the lots that are interior lots are just your front footage, what that is. Corner lots is your front footage plus half of your side footage. And then whatever that footage is times an assessment rate. And in this case, if we assume the 50% rate, we would take the total project costs, take 50% of that, and then divide it by the total accessible footage to come up with a cost per foot. And currently, if you were to assume a 50% assessment rate, we're at about $51.65 a front foot. So if you had a 100-foot lot, that'd be a $5,165 assessment. If you had a 66-foot lot, it's approximately $3,409. The way that works is that, and I'll explain more of the process, but we have one more public hearing that we need to go through, which is the assessment hearing, the final assessment hearing, which we have the actual assessment numbers at that meeting. Prior to the 15th of November, you'd have the ability to either pay off the assessment or partially pay off the assessment. And then whatever you didn't pay off would get certified to the county, would go on your tax rolls for your property taxes. And that term still needs to be set, but typically it'd be around 10 years that you can pay that off, and usually it's a small interest rate, simple interest that's tied to that. So I guess depending on what the city decides before that final assessment hearing on assessments, I would guess that it'd be at least 15%, could be as high as 50%, somewhere in that range. And like I said, on the last project that the city did, this Robert Park, it was less than 50% that was assessed, but the city's official policy is 50%. And then just as far as the schedule and the process here, so we've already, with that Chapter 429 process that's dictated by the state, we have to prepare a feasibility report, which we did and was presented to the city council, and that's basically what I'm presenting to you tonight. Then we need to have an improvement hearing, which is what's tonight, which is a public hearing. And after I'm done talking, then a big part of the purpose of this meeting is to get input from all of you on the need for the project and just any comments that you might have on it. And then we want to explain the project costs, the need for the project, and how the assessments are calculated. But anyway, after that, then assuming the city wants to keep moving forward with the project, then we would design the project, bid it out, publicly bid it for contractors to bid on. And that was, I'm thinking, would be sometime in around June. And then again, the city would need to award that contract if they wanted to keep moving forward when they see this costs. We'd construct the project this summer, and then this fall, around October, we would have that second public hearing, which is the assessment hearing, the final assessment hearing, which you'd receive written notice again, like for this meeting, and you'd actually have your actual assessment listed on that notice. So, and before that last public hearing, we would actually recalculate the assessments based on the actual costs, because right now everything's estimated. So at that time, construction will be done or nearly done, and we'll know with certainty what the costs are. So that's basically where it's at. Part of my job is to talk about whether the project is cost effective, necessary, and feasible. It is, all of those things. So I guess with that, I turn it back to Toby.
Thanks, Scotty. And I don't know if you guys, everybody understood that, these are preliminary numbers that we're looking at. Until the project actually goes out for bids and the project is actually done, we won't know what the exact cost is. So unfortunately, you wouldn't know the exact cost of what your assessment's going to be either. So I know Scott does a good job of trying to bid these out and come up with a preliminary estimate. But with that said, these numbers could change for the better or for the worse. So just keep that in mind as well. Assessments. I'm sure you're all here wanting to know what it's going to cost and how we normally do that. Thinking of past projects, what we've tried to do is to move forward with projects like this with everybody kicking in a small amount or a amount of money to make it more affordable for the property owners. I know our official policy is 50% assessments, but I think realistically, I don't know who, as far as property owners, could afford a lot of these street projects at 50% assessment. So I guess we'll open that up to any questions you guys may have and feedback from the council.
Scott, what did it come out per foot on this last project back here?
We assessed 15%.
It was, I was gonna say it was about 15%.
Yep.
I don't know the exact cost per foot, but 15% of the cost.
Okay.
And that one had sewer.
That was a little different project. I mean, that had a lot of stuff going on. This is pretty much a resurfacing and drainage project, so it's not quite apples to apples, but it's that percentage, I think, that we're trying to live within.
If we can keep the assessments low and the city can throw in as much money as they can at the project as well and still make it fair for everybody, I think that's what we're trying to accomplish.
If anyone didn't grab a handout, it's basically these two figures over there if you wanted to take one, if you didn't grab one.
I guess you're gonna resurface Edward Street. I'm looking at the bottom portion of Edward Street. Pierz Co-op's got a pretty good hunk of property there.
Yep.
For disrupting business or whatever, we'll still get access off of Fourth and the part of Capster, then for getting at our property through that whole thing, right?
Right, we need to work with
Fourth
the-
Street will always be open, the way it looks, kinda, should be.
It should be, yeah, yeah, I mean, the only thing there is if we get into the intersection,
Yeah.
but it should be pretty minimal disruption in this area, but we'd work with you, I mean, they're gonna need to mill it all up and they're gonna
Yeah.
have to move some material and they're gonna have to pave and things, but basically it's being built under traffic for most of it.
Mhm.
This intersection and Third, that's a different story, that's more of a traditional reconstruction.
And you realize there's pretty heavy traffic, I mean, like semi-wise and that,
Yep,
the road will be
yep.
built up to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Kind of skimmed over it, but this is a typical section of what the streets are proposed at this point to be, and we have a little bit thicker bituminous section on Third for sure because of the semis and
Mhm.
heavy truck traffic, and then on Edwards south of Third, we
Mhm.
have it thicker, so
Okay,
we do have that in it. There is a pretty good aggregate base section out there on Edward right now, that's where we're trying to save that. Maybe just a little bit of project history, we actually did take a number of soil borings on these projects, you probably saw the rigs out there. So we're a little more further along maybe than a typical feasibility report stage with looking at drainage and the street, but yeah. Yeah, we'll have to come up with a traffic control plan that, you know, works for everyone. There's gonna be disruption, but
Try to make it as
we
minimal.
always, yeah, we have to maintain access, so I mean,
Yeah, 'cause both
that's a
you and
minimum
Bob's has-
standard.
Mhm, yeah.
And we'll have to express that to the contractor.
Yeah,
once it
it'll be a
gets
part of our
awarded.
contract documents,
I
yeah.
mean, between Scott and he'll have an inspector on and Bob will be around, I mean, we don't wanna disrupt your guys' business, that, you know, we're gonna work with you every way we can.
Right. It may be that you're gonna have to use Fourth more than you normally would, you know, in coming in Oak and Capsner and things like that during construction, but we wanna get in and out, you know, as quickly as possible and with the least disruption as possible.
I was thinking, oh, good, I can get rid of these couple of power poles that are a nuisance for me, but we're not talking about that, you know.
Not at this
Not
point.
yet, anyway, Mike.
Mhm.
Might not be a bad time to strike up that conversation, huh?
We will have a utility coordination meeting as a part of this process, so I
Yeah.
guess we can talk to the guy in the back row there.
I guess 10% sounds good. Huh?
Yeah. A couple years ago when the water froze up on our end,
Okay.
they never did find out where our water came into the lumberyard. So is it,
Oh, really?
would this be a good time to find that and figure out if there's a better way than going across our whole parking lot?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Cause it can pretty much go straight in, you know, shortest distance right in front of our shoulder.
Absolutely.
Cause I think it goes all the way across our parking lot,
Really?
from, right across from their store.
Yeah,
Oh,
would
boy,
make sense.
One
And-
thing I didn't mention in the project history, so when we did the feasibility report and that capital improvement planning, RIPSA was involved, so Rich Prairie Sewer and Water District that controls the city's sewer and water. And part of the way we prioritize street projects was looking at utilities below and some of the older water main that's in town, most of the sewers in the alleys and backyards, but so we did have that on the table to replace the water main and all the services on Edward with this project, but through various meetings so far, that got taken out, but if there's specific things like that,
Well, I just think
that
it'd
could be put back in.
Would make sense.
So it would make
we need
sense
to
once the
talk
road's
with-
tore up versus
Yeah.
Right.
having issues again and tearing up everything.
Yeah. Do you know approximately where it comes in, Paul?
Had no idea.
Okay.
I have a drawing that we could talk about after this meeting that you can show me which one it is and I can talk to.
I know Bob
It's over
Huber,
by the
Bob Huber
east.
didn't even find it, so,
Wonder if it comes in over by,
I think it's right across from Litke's old store, or Litke's old shop, I
Right.
believe, right across from
And
there.
then probably.
That's what
back
Ray
to the
thought.
north.
We shot in what Bob marked, you know, for, on
What
our
he thought.
drawings, yeah, right at that point.
You ever
so.
see the paperwork on that? Pull off of this corner 175 feet, and then pull off of that corner 50 feet, and it should be right there.
Should be.
Should be.
That, yeah, I mean, that would be a good time to fix that situation.
Certainly it's time to do it. It leads to other things, and you're replacing curb, and you're replacing sidewalk, so but it is the time to do it, definitely.
Any other questions or concerns, comments?
Oak Street's not on the agenda anytime soon then, is it?
Nothing I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
That was not on
The feasibility study,
at
though.
least the initial priority list.
Okay.
Most of your trucks run back in that?
Oak Street, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
They come in off of Fourth or kind of from the north?
Yeah, mostly fourth, and then it depends on where they come from. They'll come in third and then around.
Okay.
If anyone knows of any like utility issues though, like water main or sewer services or anything that, you know, those could be addressed with this project, cause we're gonna have a excavator in order to put the storm sewer in and things, so, you know, we can engage Ripsaw to try to work something out, so.
What power poles, Mike, you got a few in the,
There's just
Parking
one in
lot.
particular right in the parking lot, but I cannot, for the honest to gosh, I can't remember what side of the sidewalk it's on right now. If it'd be on the street side or the other side, I don't remember, or maybe it's in the sidewalk. I don't remember. Just one pole.
one pole that
That's kinda
creates
troublesome,
havoc?
you know, but it hasn't been hit yet in all these years, so whatever.
You need a place to hang Christmas decorations.
For about $15, we could paint it blaze orange or something.
Then they'll hit it for sure, cause now they can see it.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it for safe routes to school when we did that sidewalk. I think we ended up moving it. Cause I remember doing it,
Jerry Van Kuren was out there, and you guys did move
Was
it.
it-
You moved it out of the sidewalk
Yeah.
to the,
There was a number of poles that got moved with that
Yeah,
project.
okay.
I remember getting some pricing for putting it underground too,
Yeah.
you know, to eliminate those poles. That could be looked at again with this project.
That, one thing to consider, if we disturb that sidewalk, that's like a super thick sidewalk because of the trucks driving
Mhm.
over it, so.
Mike, maybe you can, once you get together with
I
Bob,
think we should just
take a look
look
at it.
at that.
Yeah, definitely take a look at it, see if there's something we can come up with, I don't know. Taking a pole out of there and putting in a couple of heavier ones is the answer, or something, bigger ones to take that span or something, or what it's gonna take, but, yeah, once you hook up with Bob, and you guys can take a look at it to start with anyway.
Okay, sure.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions or comments, concerns?
when are you gonna have the final numbers after the bids get back?
Yeah, actually, the exact.
Actually,
numbers
after the project's done.
After the project.
The way the city of Pierz is typically done, it is after the project is done or nearly done is when they do it. Some cities will do it right after you open bids, recalc them, but
We could.
You can't always have
You
change
could.
orders.
Yeah, then you have
Unforeseen
with the
things,
change
huh?
or something.
I like doing it at the end of the
I do
construction,
too.
cause then
We know
you
exactly.
know your costs at that point.
You know, like for Paul, if he was gonna move that water line or make that correct, that's pretty much between him and Ripsaw on the
Right.
cost sharing or.
Right, so I mean, when Ripsaw was involved, it gets complicated, cause they're a separate government entity, basically, than the city. So, like what we did with the Robert Park project, we had kind of parallel but separate public hearings. So, I'm assuming they could work out a cost share, just negotiate something with
Yeah,
you.
if it's only one line.
Right,
where we're
exactly,
gonna
if it's a
deal with
whole
it.
pile of them, then we're probably need to go down that public hearing process, but I'd help facilitate that separate from the city, and there'd be no city costs, it'd be Ripsaw, so. But I'll make contact with Bob Gruber, and if you wanna do the same, you know, can tag team and at least investigate it more like the power pole thing. But yeah, that hearing, I'm thinking typically we do it in September or October is when we would have that, cause we need to certify
The assessment.
the assessments to the county. They like to see it early November, so,
Well, if we go to bid in June, we would set a completion date,
right.
you know, to hold the
I can't give you
contractor.
hard
Well-
dates yet, we'll have to look at that, but, I mean, we'd be done September at the latest, you know, so. That's more discussion to have yet still, but,
Ballpark estimate, on your opinion, start of the project to completion, what are we looking at, 4 or 5 weeks, what are you thinking?
I was thinking
Weather,
somewhere around
6.
6, I was thinking around 6, you know.
I was gonna say 3 months.
I mean, it's kind of a fine line. It's nice to not compress the schedule too much because then it has an inverse effect on costs. But if you give them too long, then stuff can get torn up and just sits. So
Well, that thing is.
and then
yeah.
everyone gets upset.
Well, you know, you got a window of weather too, and,
Yep.
and if you're sitting there, all the nice days for not working, and then all of a sudden it starts coming towards the end, and
Yep.
it starts to rain, well then, you know what happens, there's gonna be a bunch of crappy
Yep.
people.
I mean, I was looking at I was looking at around 6 weeks. That's what I'm thinking. Would be plenty of time. So.
I just want to throw that out there, gives
Yeah.
everybody an idea.
Yep, yep. I mean, in an ideal world, it'd get done before Labor Day weekend, but I can't guarantee that right now.
Well, then those are maybe some things that you can take into consideration when you do the bid opening as well, or when you award the council awards a project.
Does anyone have any particular dates of concern or any kind of D-days that are really bad ones or anything to avoid? We don't have a school directly on the road, but
Anybody else have anything? If not, we'll bring the public hearing to a close. Thank you, everybody.